Welcome back to the Sports News Analysis YouTube channel, your home for NFL talk here on YouTube. My name is Mike. Quite a bit of rumors today, guys, coming out regarding some of the top prospects here coming out in the 2014 draft. And right here, guys, I update those rumors for you every day, analyze them, and give you my take. And we'll start off with Sammy Watkins. Sammy Watkins is a guy, if you listen to this channel, you know I have him as the third best prospect in this draft. I have Jadeveon Clowney, number one on my big board, followed by Teddy Bridgewater and Sammy Watkins. And although Watkins is just 6'1", 205, maybe not the prototypical build that teams look for now in a stud wide receiver, this guy is just a playmaker. He has been since he stepped foot on the campus at Clemson. I would imagine growing up, he was quite the playmaker as well. And he's a guy who, if anyone drafts him outside of the top three, to me, they're getting a steal. And, it came out recently that was comparing Sammy Watkins to Julio Jones and A.J. Green, that he may be the best wide receiver prospect since those two came out, in 2011. And I absolutely think Sammy Watkins is going to be every bit the equal to A.J. Green and Julio Jones. I know that's saying a lot, okay, but I look at Sammy Watkins as what he lacks in size compared to those guys. All right, he makes up for in his ability to really run any route on the field and be dangerous in multiple ways. And if you've never seen Watkins play at Clemson, I highly recommend on here on YouTube looking up some of his highlights. You can see that explosive ability, but at the same time, you can see how he did it in a multitude of ways, which I think is going to be big for him at the next level. Sammy Watkins, the equal to A.J. Green and Julio Jones, I think someday, and I think someday very soon. From a guy in Watkins to a guy like Johnny Manziel, I'll move to next. Manziel, to me, the second best quarterback in this draft. I put Manziel and Bridgewater apart from the Blake Bortles and Derek Carrs of the world. And Manziel did an interview recently with John McClain, who's a noted and prolific NFL writer from Houston. If you don't know who John McClain is, he's a must follow on Twitter, and a guy who just knows football like the back of his hand. And he sat down, did an interview with Manziel recently. He's at Manziel out training in California with George Whitfield, a noted quarterback guru. And I like some of the quotes I saw from Manziel. Now, I don't know if this is a case of him just knowing his football stuff, or if it's a case of him being coached really well from a PR standpoint. But let's take what he said about Cleveland. Some of the teams linked to him have been the Texans and Cleveland. So McClain asked him some questions about going to those two cities. And, Manziel made reference to the dog pound and how he plays hard out for the city of Cleveland to hopefully bring them their first Super Bowl title. He also made reference to the fact that, he knows they've had, in excess of 20 quarterbacks there since 1999, since the franchise went back, and he'd hope to solidify that position in Cleveland. Just saying all the right things is my point, and saying how no doubt he wants to be the number one pick to Houston. He wants to play in his home city. He's a Texas boy at heart. He has a lot of emotions about the state, and good ones at that, playing his college ball in Texas and high school ball. Really saying the right things, appealing to me to the different fan bases, which I think can only help his candidacy. But when it comes down to it, look, he's going to be sitting in a room at the Combine with Bill O'Brien, all right, and with the contingent from Cleveland, Ray Farmer, Mike Pettin, and such. And based on how those interviews go and how they're sold on Manziel and how he performs at the Combine and at his pro day, will probably go, a long way into determining where he gets drafted. But again, just like the things he had to say today, maybe he was coached on him. Maybe he's turned a corner here. Even made reference to some of the immature things he might have done, and that he's really trying to put that whole Johnny football, reputation behind him. So only time will tell on all fronts: his play on the field and his actions off the field. Going from Johnny Manziel to his favorite target at Texas A&M this past season in Mike Evans, and there's been some growing sentiment that some GMs and front office people would rather Kelvin Benjamin, the wide receiver prospect from Florida State, over Mike Evans. And I think it's been clearly established that Sammy Watkins is the number one receiver in this draft, as I said before. But then you get into that number two area. A lot of people have Mike Evans, but you're starting to hear, Marquise Lee's name, and especially Kelvin Benjamin's as the same kind of receiver as Evans, maybe leapfrogging him. And I don't buy that hype right now. That just may be what it is, hype. Certainly, Benjamin has all the physical tools you'd want in a receiver. I'm not denying that. But when you look at Mike Evans, to me, he was more productive in college, number one. He was more of a threat in multiple ways than Kelvin Benjamin was. To me, Kelvin Benjamin was a little bit of a one-trick pony, very valuable in the red zone. Obviously, just had serious height and weight advantages over the cornerbacks. Mike Evans did too, but Mike Evans did it in a way where he used his body well. I liked how he always stayed involved in passing plays, even when Manziel would improv a little bit in the pocket. I like the way Mike Evans blocks better than I like the way Kelvin Benjamin blocks. Little things that I think are big things when you're talking about a rookie translating to the NFL. That's why I like Mike Evans better than Kelvin Benjamin. And I don't see much that would really change my mind because I know Kelvin Benjamin is faster than Mike Evans. I know Mike Evans is going to go to the combine and run a 4.5, 4.6 40. But you watch the tape on Mike Evans, to me, the premier box out wide receiver, okay, in college football and in a league filled with them. Calvin Johnson, Brandon Marshall, Alshon Jeffrey, and the success they've had, give me Mike Evans in that 10 to 15 pick range all day over him. Lastly, another quarterback here. Everyone's talking Manziel, Bortles, Teddy Bridgewater. Not much talk about A.J. McCarron. I mean, in the negative light you have, skipped the Senior Bowl, the Combine, not going to perform at the Combine either. All this talk about it hurting his draft stock. Well, today I heard an interesting comparison comparing A.J. McCarron to Andy Dalton. And it was made by Charlie Casserly, obviously the former GM of the Texans and a noted personnel guy in the league. I like that comparison, actually, because I think personally McCarron's arm is a lot stronger than Dalton's, than people think. To me, where I get nervous about McCarron compared to Dalton is Dalton has a little bit more mobility than McCarron. And how does that play in? If you have a guy, McCarron and Dalton, with equal arms, how does Dalton's mobility give him a leg up on a guy like McCarron? Dalton got picked, if you remember, the beginning of the second round. While I'm not as down on McCarron as other people, to me, McCarron's a late second round guy, but maybe a guy who's more of a third round pick and could even slide into the fourth round. So, I don't bag on Andy Dalton like other people do. I see the similarities between McCarron and Dalton with the intelligence, with the ability to deliver the football. McCarron with his ability to throw the ball deep a little bit better than people think. But I'm not buying it yet until I see it, until I see him throw, hopefully at Alabama's Pro Day, to see if his arm is up to par on certain throws as Dalton's is. And again, that mobility factor to me is what separates a guy like Dalton from McCarron. But let me know what you think of the comparison between those two guys. I see a lot of the similarities, but I also see some pretty big differences. Guys, let me know what you think of these draft rumors. Hit me up in the comments. I'll be coming at you with a video like this every night, so be sure to check them out. Be sure to subscribe to my channel. It's completely free. Always talking the NFL and the NFL draft on here, so be sure to subscribe. Have a nice day.